Hi, this is IAS Thinkers. We provide video lectures, notes, current events, and many more. IAS Thinkers is a platform where aspirants get everything to prepare for IAS prelims and mains examination. As we all know, environment and ecology is very important as far as preliminary examination is concerned. So we have decided to start with this subject. Our first chapter is Environment and Ecology Introduction. Now, what is an ecology? Ecology is a subject which studies the interaction among organisms and between organism and its physical environment. The word ecology literally means study of the house. Ecology is study of organisms interact with one another and with their physical environment. Within the discipline of ecology, there are four specific levels that can be discretely or sometimes with overlap. Now these levels are actually organismic level, population level, community level and ecosystem level. We are going to study this later. Now what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem includes all the living things interacting with non-living things in a given area. There are many examples of ecosystem like a pond, a forest, a grassland and many more are there. The study of ecosystems mainly consists study of certain process that link the living or biotic components to the non-living or abiotic components. This includes energy transformation and biogeochemical cycling, and these are the two main processes that comprise and field of ecosystem. As we have learned earlier, ecology generally is defined as the interaction of organisms with one another and with the environment. We can study ecology at the level of individual, population, community, and ecosystem level. Usually, the study of individuals are concerned with physiology, reproduction, development, or behavior. As far as population is concerned, it usually focuses on habitat and resource needs of individual species, their group behaviors, population growth. Now, we are going to see what are the factors of environment. As I have said earlier, the factors of environment can be biotic or abiotic. Biotic concerned with living things and abiotic concerned with non-living things. Now biotic factors are usually defined in three ways. Biotic factors can be producers, consumers or decomposers. Now what are producers? Producers are autotrophs. These are plants convert the energy into food. Consumers are heterotrophs. Like animals depend on producers for food, and decomposers are fungi and bacteria that break down chemicals from producers and consumers. These are usually dead into simpler form which can be reused. Now, biotic factors is any living component that affects the population of another organism or the environment. This include animals that consume the organisms. Their presence affect the component of an ecosystem. Factors like disease, predation, parasitism can also be considered as biotic. All these interactions will make the difference in survival and reproduction. These living things interact with one another in many ways. Biotic factors and their interactions can be broken down into three groups: producers, consumers, and decomposers. Now we are going to see what are abiotic factors. In ecology and biology, abiotic components are non-living chemical and physical factors in the environment which affects ecosystem. These are water, light, wind, soil, humidity, minerals, gases, etc. Now, abiotic factors are nothing but non-living parts of the environment that can often have a major influence on living organisms. That is biotic. Now, what are the levels of Ecology. The levels of ecology is also considered as a biological organization. Biologically, this levels has been organized in four types. These are organisms, population, communities, and biomes. What is organismic level? Organismic level is a self-contained individual which can be unicellular organism or multicellular organisms. Now, ecology at the organismic level is essentially physiological ecology, which tries to understand how different organisms are adapted to their environment in terms of not only survival but also reproduction. This organism had through natural selection evolved to optimize its survival and reproduction in its habitat. Human being is an example of multicellular organism. Now these two types of organism, unicellular and multicellular, is divided to study, make it helpful for study the biology. Now factors of organismic level. The organismic level is divided into pathogens, parasites, predators and competitors. What are these components actually do? These components is nothing but the factor that leads to many variations in physical and chemical condition of organisms in a particular habitat. Now, as far as pathogens is concerned, pathogens are nothing but disease causing microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, viruses. Most pathogens are parasites. What are parasites? Parasites is nothing but the organism that live off the host or lives on or in a host and gets its food from or at the expense of its host. Parasites can cause disease in humans. Now, what are predators? Predators are those animals that hunt, kill, or eat other animals. The food a predator hunts is called its prey. What are competitors? Now, predators can be subdivided into two types. These are large predators and smaller predators. As far as large predators are concerned, polar bears, killer whales, and great white sharks, these are large predators. And small predators are like sea stars living on the bottom of the ocean. Now, what are competitors? Every organism in an ecosystem needs a place to live. An organism's way of life within an ecosystem is called its niche. An organism's niche include food, shelter, temperature, the amount of moisture the organism needs to survive. And when there are two or more individuals of population, try to use the same limited resources such as food, water, shelter, space, sunlight is called as competitors. What are abiotic components? We have seen earlier biotic components. Now we'll see what are the abiotic components that leads to variations. There are main four types of components. These are temperature, water, light, soil. We'll see temperature first. Now here the temperature is the most ecologically relevant environmental factor. Few organisms can tolerate and thrive in a wide range of temperatures. These are euthermal, like penguin, red algae, but vast of them restricted to a narrow range of temperatures. These are like cat, dog. The levels of thermal tolerance of different species determine to a large extent their geographical distribution. Now here one example is given. Animals that inhabit nature's freezers have to be well adapted to living in the cold and often have a thick layer of fat to help to keep them warm, like polar bear found in region of sea ice in the Arctic Ocean. Now we will see what is the second one. The second one is water. Now water, it's the most important influencing life of organisms. Life on earth originated in water. For aquatic organisms, the quality of water becomes very important. And as far as salt concentration is concerned, it is less than 5% in inland water, 30 to 35% in sea water, and 100% in some hypersaline lagoons. Some organisms are tolerant of a wide range of salinities. These are euryhaline, but others are restricted to a narrow range that are stenohaline. Now we'll see light. The third one is light. Plant produce food through photosynthesis, and photosynthesis needs light from sunlight. Sun is the source of light. Many species of small plants growing in forests are adapted to photosynthesis under very low light conditions, as overshadowed by tall canopy trees. Many plants are dependent on sunlight to meet their photoperiodic requirement for flowering. And many animals too. Light is important in that they use it for timing their foraging, reproductive, and migrating activities. The availability of light on land affects temperature also. Now, like for example, deep in the oceans, the environment is dark. The spectral quality of solar radiations is also important for light. Now, we will see the fourth one, that is soil. The nature and properties of soil vary in different places due to climate and weathering process. Now, the various characteristics of soil such as soil composition, grain size, aggregation determine the percolation and water holding capacity of soil. Mineral composition and topography also determine the vegetation, the type of vegetation in the area, which in turn determine the type of animals will survive on that. Take a look at some questions here. Like for example, what is homeostasis? What are homeostasis? In humans, homeostasis happens when the body regulates body temperature in an effort to maintain an internal temperature. For example, we sweat to cool off during the hot summer days and we shiver to produce heat during the cold winter season. The concept of homeostasis was first described in 1865 by Claude Bernard, a French physiologist. However, the term was coined later in 1962 by the American physiologist Walter Bradford Cannon. What are conformers, regulators, and partial regulators? Now, we'll see what are these conformers, regulators, and partial regulators are. Homeostasis is the process of regulating the internal environment to maintain a stable, constant condition, typically in a living organism. There are two ways in which an organism can maintain a stable internal temperature: by regulating their internal temperature to best suit their needs, or conforming their internal temperature to the external temperature. A regulator is also known as endotherm. A regulator uses internal control mechanism to maintain the optimum temperature needed for its body to function. Like mammals and birds are example of regulators. Now, for example, if the climate around a regulator gets hotter, the animal can adjust its metabolism to lessen the need for heat production. Whereas a conformer is also called an ectotherm, can regulate its own internal temperature. So it must adapt its behavior physically moving itself to environments with optimum temperatures. For example, a lizard may lie on a rock in the sun to raise its body temperature as it cannot regulate it internally. Conformers move to places with good temperature for survival because they cannot self-regulate their internal temperature. Regulators use internal control mechanism to maintain the best temperature for their body. Now we will see what are the possibilities to cope with difficult conditions. As we have seen, regulators regulate, conformers conform and migrate. Now we will see migrate. The organisms can move away temporarily from the stressful habitat to a more hospitable area and return when stressful period is over. Whereas the suspend, the organism may avoid the stress by escaping in time. Bears go into the hibernation winter. Some snails and fish go into estivation in summer. This is suspend. And what these possibilities do? This is nothing but the possibilities to adapt. An adaptation is any attribute of the organism, morphological, physiological, behavioral, that enable the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Now we'll go towards populations. Now we have seen the first level, that is organismic level. Now we are going towards population level. Population is a group of organisms, usually of the same species, occupying a defined area. Biologists define a population as a group of individuals of the same species, but population ecology is the scientific study of how populations interact with the environment. There are many interesting questions that can be asked concerning populations, and many population ecology studies have shed light on processes that contribute to population dynamics. This branch of biology has been instrumental in the conservation and understanding evolution. Population ecology has also helped us figure out how diseases spread. Now, here are a few things that population ecologists study. Population ecology is an important area of ecology because it links ecology to population genetics and evolution. A population has certain attributes that an individual organism does not. An individual may have births and deaths, whereas population has birth rates and death rates. In a population, these rates refer to per capita births and deaths. Another attribute characteristics of population is sex ratio. Population at a given time is composed of individuals of different ages. If the age distribution is plotted for the population, the resulting structure is called an age pyramid. One example of this. This is the example of age pyramids. First is growing, second is stable, and third one is declining. So these are the age pyramids. Now we will see population density. Population density fluctuates due to following basic processes. What are these processes are? These are natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. And these processes is defined into growth models. These are exponential growth and logistic growth. Now we'll see what is actually the population density is. The number of individuals of a species per unit R of volume. Determining how many individuals are in a given space helps to shed light on basic biology of the species. For example, you can determine how much land is needed for the conservation of an endangered species until you do such basic research on population density. So population growth models are exponential and logistic growth. We'll see exponential growth model. The rate of expansion of a population under ideal conditions in which the population multiplies by a constant factor during constant time intervals. The constant factor for bacteria is 2 because each parent cell divides to produce 2 daughter cells. The generation time for the bacteria in the graph below is 20 minutes. Hence, the name exponential growth model. This growth model occurs under ideal conditions and for only short bursts of time. Eventually, limited resources become exhausted, a disease spread more and more rapidly. In nature, we usually only see this type of growth when organisms are confronted with a new or underexploited environment. Now we'll see logistic growth model. In nature, a population may grow exponentially for a short while, but eventually one or more environmental factors will limit its growth, at which the population will stop increasing or crashes. Environmental factors that restrict growth are referred to as population limiting factors. Logistic growth is characterized by carrying capacity, the highest number of individuals which an environment can support. We have seen these two growth models. Now we will see the interactions. What are the population interactions? What kind of interactions are there? There are usually 6 types of interactions. These are mutualism, competition, predation, parasitism, commensalism, and amensalism. Now, as we have seen the 2 levels, these are organismic level and population level. In our next chapter, we will see population level interactions in detail. The end of our first lecture, our first video, that is environment and ecology introduction. I hope everyone likes it, and if you like it, please go on to contact us at www.iasthinkers.com. We provide notes, video lectures, daily current affairs, etc. We provide summary for every chapter. Live discussions and query solving sessions are also there. Thank you.